I think that arrogance that Skoda had,
Katank! Who's going to buy a Kushaq?
launch after launch, news piece after news piece, it's been exciting.
Go, "Whoa," and then Polo fan. If you are a Polo fan, this is the spiritual successor to the Polo. What? Yeah, I think the i5 drives also really well. When you're doing the launch control, that like 0 to top speed in like it goes. Welcome to the Evo India podcast. Today, we are talking about the cars and bikes that we've driven, ridden, followed over the past week. I'm Sirish Chandran, editor at Evo.
I'm Aatish Mishra, assistant editor at Evo India.
And today, we're going to be talking about the Skoda Kylaq, the Maruti Suzuki Dzire, 5 stars finally, the BMW i7, which I am long-term testing, the Royal Enfield Flying Flea, their first electric, I wouldn't call it a motorcycle, but we will discuss that.
I mean, by definition, it is a motorcycle.
Okay, so we will discuss that. And of course, we're going to end with the G63 and also a bit of a teaser on the C63. Welcome to Evo India. Aatish, let's start with the Kylaq. You've driven the Kylaq. So before I jump in with my opinions on the little baby Skoda, what does it like to drive? Is it a baby Kushaq?
It is a baby Kushaq. And to understand why we're saying that, you need to understand what the Kylaq essentially is. It is a Kushaq, but with a shorter wheelbase. That's fundamentally it. You know, you've got the same platform, which has been shortened by 85 mm. The wheelbase is shorter to make it a little smaller. It has the same engine, the 1 liter TSI. There's no 1.5 TSI on this car. It is the smaller car with the smaller engine. And the fundamentals, the track width is also the same. So the dash, the space, everything inside is the same. Fundamentally, it's the same car, and therefore, it drives the same. Suspension, steering systems, axles, all of that is the same.
You said that it is a little softer than the Kushaq.
So we had a very brief impression with it, and most of it was on track, on a go-kart track, on a racetrack, but we got a very brief experience driving on a rough track. You've been to coast, you know that track entering coast from the main road. It's a little off-road trail. So we were sat in the passenger seat in this, and we were given a slight experience. So I did feel like it was a little softer than the Kushaq, but honestly...
And you would know because you own a Kushaq.
Correct. But also that comes with a star, because the Kushaq that we have at home has the 16-inch wheels, which actually rides a little better than the 17-inch wheel Kushaq. And the Kylaq we were driving had 17-inch wheels. So it's really 10-15% here, there. My impression was, compared to the 17-inch wheel Kushaq, this is a little softer. But again, they're still fine-tuning it. We drove prototypes. They're still fine-tuning. They were taking feedback from us. They're going to work on it. And finally, when the cars go into production in December is when the final cars will be...
You know, manufacturers keep saying that these are pre-production prototypes, but it's all bunk, because in 2 months there is no way that they can do softer springs or change the dampers and put that into production. So what you drove is the final production with a whole load of sticker tape and camo on it. But I want to come back to the fact that you own a Kushaq.
Yes.
Now, you had a first day first show issue, which a lot of people had with those EPC issues.
Yeah. Ours wasn't EPC, it was some battery related thing. But
that got sorted out immediately. And before we did this podcast, we were talking about this whole cost of ownership. So every Skoda press conference, they talk about reducing cost of ownership. They talk about increasing the dealer network, all of that. Yeah. It's been 3 years since you've had your Kushaq and you've had no problems.
Zero issues. It's with my dad. It's not with me in Pune. He drives a lot. He does 20,000 plus kilometers a month. So it's done now.
20,000 plus kilometers a month?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. I thought this was your dad. What does he do? Bombay, Delhi all the time?
Yeah, so 20,000 plus kilometers a year. He's done over 65, 70,000 kilometers now. So in terms of how it's worked over the years, it's brilliant. Even I went back the last time to Goa. He said, just drive it, see how it's driving. He was driving perfectly fine. You know, you just service these cars on time, make sure they're getting serviced at regular intervals,
and
take care of them.
Is the service expensive?
It's not. I don't know the exact details. I just don't get into it at home. But from what I understand, it's not as expensive as what our Octavia used to be. You know, and the reason
net, they've sorted out these whole cost of ownership issues, the service issues, the reliability. All of that is sorted out. And you're saying this from first-hand experience. It's not like a media car that you have. It's your own personal car.
When people get in touch with us to ask us if we should buy this car, buy that car, there still is a lot of apprehension around Skoda's cost of ownership. You know, it's been 3 years since the Kushaq, Slavia. Kushaq launched 3 years ago, Slavia 2 years ago. That's a long time, and still the perception remains that Skodas are expensive to own. So that is something that the Skoda team has their work cut out for them. They need to really get down, get their knees dirty, and figure out how to communicate that, look, these cars are made in India, the parts are made in India, everything is localized, we're not importing parts anymore. In fact, they told us also the only thing that's imported really is the gearbox. And this is a manual and a torque converter. It's not those unreliable DSGs which you might have
even the DSGs are sorted out.
Yeah.
Those old mechatronic issues
Correct.
that used to be there with DSGs.
Yeah.
Now nobody's talking about it.
Yes.
So the problem is perception.
Exactly.
And people have long memories. And that needs to be addressed. So work still needs to be done on that.
And to be fair, for 2 decades, that was the case. So it's a long time. It's not like 3 years is going to erase 2 decades of damage. But they need to work at it because this is a crucial juncture for Skoda in India. This, like Peter said, this single car now makes them address 60% of the market. 60% of the market is a big deal. And if they can actually tap into that by convincing them that this is a great alternative to a Nexon, an XUV, a Brezza, Kia, a Venue, whatever.
Yeah.
They have the potential to make it last in India.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say make it big, but make it last.
So you're talking about Peter Janeba, who is the brand director of Skoda in India.
Yes.
And this, remember, is, I think, after nearly 2 decades that Skoda is coming back into the sub-4 meter segment. They had the Fabia.
Yeah.
And then they stopped the Fabia, saying that it was too expensive. It was not cost viable. So not only too expensive for customers, it was too expensive for Skoda, because the rumor there was that Skoda was losing 1.5 lakh rupees on every Fabia that they were selling. Wow. How it is, and I can't understand how, because the Fabia was twinned with the Polo.
Yes.
Both were made at the Chakan factory, which was Volkswagen factory, now it is the Skoda factory. But how they were losing 1.5 lakh rupees per car, I don't know. It was because of that mathematics.
Maybe because it was that old company structuring where they had to buy the car, then sell the car. Then
yeah, so it was internal financial engineering, but whatever. It just it's staggering.
Yeah.
They were losing 1.5 lakh rupees per Fabia. So then they canned it and they said to hell with it. Now they're back in the sub-4 meter game. And this, like you said, is a huge market.
Yes,
now,
absolutely.
I'll tell you why I'm excited about it. It looks like a Skoda.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Skodas look good.
Yeah.
They've got this nice, muscular, strong face. Not too much of this chrome, jazzy, bling. It ages very well. Even today, you see a Kushaq on the road, you see a Slavia on the road. They look good.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like
Gen 1 Octavia on the road.
It looks very good.
Yeah.
And they have that desirability.
Yeah.
So they're nice, bold, striking designs.
Correct.
17-inch wheels that you spoke about.
Yes.
Now, that is a effect of using the same Kushaq axles. So this is not a hatchback that has been jacked up to look and feel like a SUV.
Yeah.
This is a proper, well-engineered mid SUV that has been scaled down only in terms of the wheelbase.
Yes.
And how much is 85 mm? Am I right?
8.5 centimeters. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah. So it's a very little shrinking of the wheelbase. I sat in the back. I didn't feel it was cramped. I thought it was fine.
By class standards, it's actually good.
Yeah. Now the Kushaq is no very spacious car, but in terms of the space, the rear knee room, it was fine. The width, it was not a proper 5-seater.
Yeah.
This continues with that. But the way the rear seats are shaped, and if this has the same Kushaq seats, the rear seats.
I think it does. Why would they change it? The width is the same.
Exactly. So those seats are nicely contoured. So for 4 people, this is actually very comfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's got comfort, ride comfort. It'll have handling.
Yes, it does. It does have handling. Yeah.
So this will be one of those few small compact SUVs that actually will handle well, that have sophisticated ride and handling. Obviously, being a Skoda, it'll have 5 stars in the NCAP ratings. So everything will be sorted.
And one of the most important things, I think, especially when you're trying to live with a car, is the storage and ergonomics. A lot of the mid SUVs are cramped on the inside.
Compact SUVs.
Compact SUVs are not cramped in terms of space, but cramped in terms of storage. Like you don't have place to put your wallet, your phone, cup holders, stuff like that.
Are you talking about the next one?
I am talking about the Nexon. But it's not just the Nexon. You see a lot of them, even Venue doesn't have cup holders, This has all of that down because it's a Kushaq width which has been essentially carried over into this segment. So you have door pockets, you have a proper under armrest storage, you have cup holders, you have a proper tray for your phone. You can fit 2-3 phones in there if you want. So
only one will charge.
Yeah, one will charge. But that's besides the point. I'm sitting in a Nexon today, my long-termer, and if I put my phone in the wireless phone charger, my passenger doesn't have a place for their phone. They're holding onto their phone, which is inconvenient. And it's just not practical. So a lot of those everyday usability things are sorted in this Kylaq.
Also pricing. At least the entry level pricing is very attractive.
Yes.
Now, I just hope that they don't see all the positive comments and say, chalo, now the top end version, we can make a proper margin on that, because that will then affect them. And everybody will be watching the prices with a hawk's eye.
But they've said we're going to be 100% competitive at every level.
Yeah, see, competitive is relative, and it is, I think I'm competitive, but pricing has to be sorted.
I think that arrogance that Skoda had earlier of being able to charge a premium has gone. Like when you talk to them also today, they've genuinely tried to understand what the Indian customers want. You should go and watch the interview we did with Petter on our YouTube video. He talks about what their pricing strategy was. They spoke to customers and they said, okay, we've spent a lot of time on this car. We've given you a lot of features on this car. This is a more expensive platform in a segment down. Can we price it at a premium? And customers have said, no, this is the price. If you give us something on top of that price while keeping the price the same, thank you very much. But this is the price. We're not paying more. And they've sort of understood that, at least from what he says, it looks like that. If that's the case and they keep their pricing uniform and competitive throughout, I think that'll be a big step for Skoda. They've sort of let go of that arrogance that they had that our products are superior so we can charge more, and they're coming down to the level of the customer, leveling with the customer and saying, here you go, this is what you wanted, take it.
Now the problem arises, and that is, if the Kylaq is some 3 lakhs cheaper than a Kushaq, who's going to buy a Kushaq?
It's definitely going to cannibalize at least 1 liter entry mid-variant sales. There's no doubt about that. But I think the upside of the number of Kylaqs that will sell because people are walking into Skoda dealerships is far greater than the cannibalization of sales of Kushaq.
And in any case, the Kushaq doesn't sell much of the 1.5. And that's again down to their post strategy where, unlike Volkswagen, where the 1.5s are the GT, so that's why there is a draw to it. They did not have that. Even though we told them, it's been 3 years since we told them, they still haven't been able to.
There's a Monte Carlo,
but you have a Monte Carlo on the 1 liter
correct,
also. So there's no visual differentiation of the 1.5, and that's why those 1.5s aren't selling as much as Volkswagen's 1.5s are.
But there's also a facelift coming next year.
Yeah. So the facelift, it can't come too soon.
Yeah.
It just has to come right now. And second, it just can't be a facelift. It has to be more than just a facelift. If they just change the headlamps, tail lamps and say that is that, I don't think it's going to work.
I think they're going to add more equipment. I believe ADAS is supposed to be coming.
ADAS is 100% coming. Yeah. I don't know about panoramic sunroof. Now, I know it's very stupid to be talking about sunroofs and all of that. But that is what customers are attracted by.
Correct. But
so you have to give the customer what the customer wants. There's no two ways about it, whether you and I like it or not.
And maybe they've done some jugaad to the platform and allowed it to accommodate that. But how much are they going to change it? This is a platform that's essentially locked in until a generational upgrade comes. And again, go to our website. We've confirmed a new generation Skoda coming with possibly a new platform. So,
well, should we digress?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Why not?
A quick digression. Now, what Petter told you in that interview about the next Kushaq being a 7-seater.
Possibly, they're evaluating.
Possibly 7-seater. Yeah. That'll only happen. It can't happen with the MQB A01 because this is the maximum that it can stretch to. So that's going to happen if the rumored Mahindra, Skoda, SAVW, PL partnership actually happens. Because then Skoda and Volkswagen will get access to Mahindra's platforms. So that would mean that the next Kushaq would be based on the XUV700. Maybe not the current XUV700, the next, the generation update on the XUV700. So that is a 7-seater. And that would be the Kushaq.
Yeah. Sure, maybe.
So, again, another staggering aspect.
It's a lot to take in, I know. And we're talking not about the next year Kushaq, we're talking 2028 types of timelines. So it's a long way off. But this is when plans for 2028 are firmed up.
Yeah, but first the Mahindra Skoda partnership, that needs to be firmed up. So a lot of moving parts in here.
Yes.
But let's not digress. Let's come back to
Kylaq.
Kylaq, I think it looks good.
Yes.
As you confirmed, the ride and handling is very good. Right up there with class benchmark.
Safety.
If not above. Safety is there. Equipment is okay. It's nothing great. Like if you compare with the 3XO panoramic sunroof and all of that, with all that fancy sound system, this, that. But okay, if you want a well-engineered small car, if you were a Polo fan, if you are a Polo fan, this is the spiritual successor to the Polo.
In a way, yes. And I think there are a lot of buyers in a slightly tighter budget who want a European car, who want a well-engineered car which makes few compromises in terms of the driving, in terms of the safety, and they're willing to give up a little bit on the feature front. There is an audience for that. That's where the Polo sold.
Yeah.
And this sort of gives them an option now. The Kushaq, Slavia, Virtus, Taigun may have been a little bit out of reach, and this opens that up to them.
So I really do hope this finds a lot of buyers, because this is very, very, very crucial.
Yes.
I can't overestimate how important this is for Skoda.
Can I interject there?
Yeah.
Why is Volkswagen not on this already?
Okay, so that was something I was coming to.
Yeah.
But the rumor mill was, and inside whispers were, that Volkswagen wanted to go full electric. Because electric is coming. Now, whether we like it or not, and looking at what is also going on right now, but electrics are coming. No two ways about it. Volkswagen didn't want this in-between step and then you start working on electrics. They wanted to go full electrics. Now, with all of this demand slowdown in EVs, now they've scratched their head and saying, oh shit, maybe we should have this. So what I hear is that Volkswagen are going to do their version of the Kylaq. But because they've now taken so long to sign off on it, theirs is not going to come ASAP. Theirs is going to take a year or so. By which time, what's going to happen in this segment, Bhagwan Jane.
Yeah.
So again, that planning has not worked in their favor. So it is coming. So the small Volkswagen, the real Polo update is coming. Whether they call it the Polo or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's going to
I
take
have
some
another
time.
question. Now that this platform has been shortened to sub 4 meters, why can't they do a design rehash of the global Polo like how Renault did with their Captur?
Yeah, so I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
And that's a good question. The thing is that the hatchback segment is not growing. The hatchback segment is kind of stagnant. Also, the margins that you can command from an SUV are more than you can command from a hatchback. So if you make, say, $10 on a Kylaq, you will make $6 on, say, a Fabia, right? So you can make a hatchback on this. There's nothing stopping anybody from making a hatchback on this platform. But your margins are going to be lower. So then do you want to go through all the exercise of doing this? So that is the question. Look at the entry hatchback segment. What do you have today? The Alto. Like the margins are so wafer thin that the only way you can make money is by having massive volumes. And the only person who can do these massive volumes is Maruti, not even Hyundai. Even Hyundai is putting their hands up and they are focusing on larger vehicles. So they have the i20, they have the Exter, but it's all SUV. That whole rush towards SUVs, that's where the margins are to be had. And nobody is in this business for charity. Everybody wants to, you have to pay salaries.
Fair enough.
You have to pay dividends. So that's the reason why hatchbacks, and look at the sedan segment. The Honda City, where it was, today look at their numbers. The numbers are just gone.
Yeah.
Slavia and Virtus, okay, the Virtus is now the best-selling car in that segment, but what are the numbers? The numbers are nothing like, oh, look at these, 10,000. It's not even, it's like, what, 2,500, 2,000?
Yeah.
So that's where the issue lies.
I think this is a good segue into our next segment, into a sedan.
Yeah.
That's probably the best-selling sedan in the country. It is the best-selling sedan in the country.
It is the fourth best-selling car of all time in India.
And it's a sedan.
And it is a sedan.
Yeah.
And it is the largest selling sedan for 16 years in a row.
2.7 million cars sold, 27 lakh cars sold.
And if you include exports,
Yeah.
because you see the Dzire in South Africa, I saw it in South Africa, it goes to quite a few other countries. It's over 3 million. It's over 3 lakh.
That's a lot of desires.
That's a lot of desires.
Yeah.
So over 3 million of these desires have been produced, have been sold. Obviously, today, this whole desire segment is Uber-Ola segment.
Yeah.
But the new desire, and which is what we're talking about,
Yes.
will not be sold in the fleet market.
For now. Yeah.
So that would mean at least a year, if not a little bit more.
I hope they take it at least till the facelift comes, maybe 3 years, so that there's time for this to
I don't think 3 years. 3 years.
Because they've
will
got
be
the
too
tour.
much.
What's wrong with that tour? Nothing wrong with it as a taxi.
So I'll tell you what's wrong with that. The tour,
Yeah.
third generation Desire, older Desire, is a 2-star crash rated car.
Yeah.
Whereas the new Desire is a 5-star crash rated car. 5-star for adult, 4-star for child occupant safety.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference, because
Fair
when you're
enough.
going to the airport, whenever you sit in a bloody Ola or Uber,
Yeah.
you want to sit in a safe car,
True.
right? And I think that has finally been addressed. All of that bombardment on social media, those memes that others have been making, we pushing that, no, you have to make safer cars, it's not fallen on deaf ears.
Yes.
Maruti have made statements that were kind of shocking in the past, saying that it's the responsibility of the government to be making good roads and all of that. But they have been working on it, and now the Desire has scored properly in the crash safety ratings.
Yes.
The other good part about that is that the Swift and the Desire are identical.
Yes.
So there's no reason for the Swift not to be a 5-star rated car.
Yeah. Shouldn't be.
Yeah,
But
it
we
shouldn't
don't
be.
know.
There's no
Yeah.
reason for it, unless, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
But, that's there. So the Desire is safe. Now, in the past, whenever we've done a comparison test with a Maruti vehicle, what is the reason why a Maruti supposedly hadn't won? It was always the number one point would be that the crash ratings.
Correct.
Right? And when you buy a car, I always firmly believe that you should buy the safest car that you can buy.
True.
Compromise on sunroof, compromise on the size of your screens, compromise on ventilated seats, but don't compromise on safety, because you will need that only once in your life.
Yes.
But that once in your life, when it helps you walk out of the car without a scratch, that has paid for itself many times over.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
A car can be repaired, bones take much longer to heal,
Yeah.
and worse can happen. So always buy a safer car. And now the Desire is a safe car. The Swift also then, by extension, should be a safe car. And that's the only reason why Marutis probably haven't won comparison tests. Now, there is no reason not to recommend a Desire to anybody.
Absolutely.
If you're looking for an affordable sedan,
Yeah.
that is the car to buy. Okay.
True.
Caveat, the new Amaze is coming.
And
in
the
a
sketches
month.
look pretty good.
Sketches look like a Civic, no?
Yeah.
I love how these sketches look
Yeah.
all slammed and
Yeah.
big wheels, and then when you finally see the car, it's on these piddly wheels, and you're like, so
But they did that with the Verna as well. They made it look so good in the sketches.
I think these sketches also should set a proper expectation.
Yeah.
This expectation is like, look, it's like a Type R.
Yeah,
Amaze
I think that's
Type
what
R.
Tata and Mahindra do really well. They set expectations right from the concept stages. They're not
Yeah. Not going over the top.
Yeah, they're not trying to sell you something that's not happening.
Yeah, this one looks so cool. And then now when you look at and we'll do that when the actual images come out, we'll put the sketch and how it started, how it's going.
Because the sketch looks as wide as a Civic, and that proportion looks good because it looks so wide. I mean, I'm
And
sure
big wheels, and it looks like a touring car.
it'll be like squished when it finally comes.
But anyway, that's coming.
Yeah.
Again, Honda, Japanese,
Yeah.
great engine. It will be sorted. But these are the only two cars, right? In
Aura.
that segment. And the Aura.
Yeah.
Aura is now pure
Taxi. Yeah.
Who's going to buy a Aura for private use when it's all Olas and Ubers, right? So that's the thing. That segment is now two players in there. Okay. I asked Maruti that why are you still keeping the faith with these sedans? And they said the buyers are there.
Yeah.
That its rivals aren't doing a car in that segment is no reason for Maruti not to do it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So let's quickly run through what is it like to drive.
It's very similar to the Swift. You look at what the changes are. It's a lot of cosmetic stuff. It looks very different from the Swift now.
It looks like an Audi.
It looks like an Audi, which is a good thing. I think it looks inspired and not copied. Like you can't say this looks like an A4, but you can say it looks like an Audi. So they've clearly inspired it, but it's not a blatant copy like what Hyundai used to do back in the mid 2000s. The engine is the new Swift's 3-cylinder engine. So in terms of drivability, it's good because it's got that low to mid-range torque. It's not that sweet 4-cylinder that we used to love so much. Manual transmissions, Maruti's manual's brilliant. The AMT AMTs have taken a huge step up in the last few years, I think, and it's not too bad. As long as you're not trying to like set lap times, you won't find it too slow.
And it's more efficient than the manual.
More efficient, yeah. And
25.7 compared to 24 point something for the manual.
And those efficiency numbers are really the highlight of the design, but what will definitely get a lot of people to look at it. Space in the back is okay. The platform is that same older platform, hardtech platform, which has been updated now for this
crash
safety.
Yeah.
Ride is a little better than before. It doesn't feel as crashy through potholes. It doesn't like jar you as much when you go through a bump. It feels a little more robust, and it handles neatly. It has some of that Swift DNA. I wouldn't say it's the most engaging handler, but it actually holds the road well, and you can have a little bit of fun if you want to. But most importantly, I think it looks desirable now. And it's ironic because the Dzire was not desirable because it was a taxi, but it looks desirable now. And if they can keep this away from the fleet for a while, it can hold on to that desirability for a while.
Yeah. We're not going to talk too much about it, but I would just think that no Maruti looks like a part of the Maruti family. Apart from the Fronx and the Grand Vitara, like the Dzire does not look like any other Maruti or a Suzuki. There is no family connection. But anyway, we'll talk about it later. We are running out of time on this podcast. Let's dive into the next car that we've driven, or cars that we've driven. Now, with the 5 Series, you talked about it doesn't really feel like the 5 Series of the past. We've got a video on the channel, a generations video, where we've got all the generations of the 5 Series. And we talked about the E60, everything, the F-Ter, all of that we've talked about, and how this new doesn't really have the thrill of driving of the earlier cars. But when you compare it to the E-Class, it has more power.
Yes, definitely.
It sounds actually pretty sporty, all piped in through the speakers, but you put it into sport mode and it makes noises. Huh?
Yes.
It moves well.
Yeah.
The ride comfort was, for me, shocking. It was so good, especially the low-speed ride, the way it ironed out the small pitter-patter. It does it better than an E-Class.
Yeah. The E-Class has a slight firmness at low speed.
Slight firmness, yeah. So it does it better. I think they've really gone alright with the wheel design. Not the wheel size, because the E-Class had the same wheel size. But this design of the wheel...
Same tire size also.
And the same tire size, exactly. So this design of the 5 Series wheel, it just exaggerates the high profile.
Yeah. It's got like a rim on the outside, which makes the spokes look smaller.
Yeah, so that makes it look very undertired.
Yeah.
So if they just have a better wheel design, that will get sorted out. They moved to regular tires. They finally ditched run flats. That makes so much a difference. These tires, by the way, reddish tan tires, they're made in India. Yeah. They're Indian tires, they're not imported tires. But their tires work well. Yeah. You can go around corners fast.
Yes, absolutely.
This handles well. It doesn't handle like a... Yeah, it doesn't handle like an old 5. It rolls. Like, we'll put some pictures. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'll have some pictures. Yeah. So you'll see a lot of body roll. But it grips. But if you want a 5 Series, for what the 5 Series always stood for, what would you buy?
The i5.
The i5.
Yeah.
That's the regular wheelbase.
Yes.
Okay.
Looks so much better, no? Doesn't it?
I just think that this 5 Series, this design, it just grows on you.
Yeah.
So the more you see it, is just growing on you. I've seen a few but even at then, night.
Like if you put the new 5 Series long wheelbase compared to the i5, I think the 5 looks a little too stretched, like because the surfacing doesn't work on the side. On the i5, which is what the designers intended.
Actual 5 Series.
What the designers intended it for it to look like for the whole world. Yeah. It looks phenomenal.
Yeah, I think the i5 drives also really well. Now, I've always maintained that an electric car is great for Monday to Friday. But on the weekends, you're not going to wake up at 5 in the morning to drive an electric car. Doesn't change with the i5. But that said, the i5 is a very nice car to drive. The performance it's like M5 territory.
Yeah, 600 horsepower almost.
600 horsepower. It moves like a madman. It really moves. Those iconic sounds, which is all Hans Zimmer composed. You put it into dynamic, you do that launch control start. It has a launch control display. Yeah. When you're doing the launch control, it actually is like how a combustion engine, strains on its leash. So you have to really press the brake hard and then it's like, whereas in other electric cars, you brake torque it, which is left foot on the brake, right foot on the gas, and there's nothing that happens. But here they've engineered that brake torque characteristic where it is straining on the leash that you have to really press the brake hard. It goes, and then when it launches, it makes all these weird noises that it lights the fires in you. I can't say it lights the fires of the enthusiast, but some fires it lights. Some juices get flowing, and by the end of it, you are smiling.
Yeah, and you're also doing some ridiculous speeds because it accelerates so quickly.
Yeah. So it can do like 0 to top speed in like.
Yeah.
Okay, I shouldn't say this, but it does it.
Yeah.
You know, and it is seamless.
Yeah.
There is no dip. There is no ebb and flow. Yeah. So from 0 to top speed is one straight pull.
Constant acceleration.
It's just constant, no let up. You're like, oh, and then whoa. You know. So
I'd argue actually that it does lack a little bit of character because of that. Like that ebb and flow of torque is nice. Yeah. Hans Zimmer, and I've written this in my story, as much of a genius as he is, he can't get our juices flowing as much as intake and exhaust sounds. You know, so it's fast. It lacks a little bit of character compared to a full-blown V8 M5. But look at the price. 1.2 crores. Electric car, which means in Maharashtra at least you're not paying registration road tax. 600 horsepower BMW for 1.2 crores is a bargain in my opinion. You know?
Especially now, looking at where prices are going. Yeah, the C63 was launched this week. We're going to talk about it in the next week's podcast because obviously embargo, so we can't talk about it. But the C63 obviously has got more power.
Yes.
671 bhp, 1020 Newton meters of torque.
Ridiculous.
But the price,
it's
1.95 crores ex showroom. And it has been downsized. It's now a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. You get more power. You get more torque. Obviously, with hybridization, you will get better responsiveness.
And it's proper F1 tech. Like it's genuine F1 tech.
Genuine F1 tech that's filtered down into road cars. It's got drift mode, 4MATIC Plus. So drift mode, and plus with the better responses, you'll be able to drift it even better.
Yes.
Which I'm dying to try out. You know, so all of that is there. But do you need a sports car?
You don't.
You want a sports car.
Absolutely.
Did you ever dream of buying a 2-liter sports car? Unless you're a Miata fan or something.
Yeah.
Like, nobody dreamt of that. Or S2000, Honda S2000 fan. You always dreamt of a big engine.
Yeah.
I dreamt of a Porsche 6-cylinder. Yeah, forget that. I dreamt of a Ferrari V12.
Yeah.
Porsche 6-cylinder baad mein. When you set expectations. Right. So that is going to be the struggle.
Yes.
Now, Mercedes knows that. Okay, globally, they understand the challenge and they know the best way to deal with that is bums on seats, which is basically get customers to drive this car on a racetrack where they can unleash the full potential. That's what our guys are going to be doing. In fact, as we film this, they are at the BIC unleashing the full potential of the C63. Yeah. So you'll probably get Lenny in the next podcast where he can talk about what it feels like on the track. So I'm sure it'll move and all that. But only thing that emotional side of things is kind of missing.
Yeah. So, but then when you compare that to the i5, there's no cylinders. So
yeah. But then again, that's the new tech.
Yes.
You know, that is electrics. And before we cut with this i5 talk, another thing that struck me is that every time you put your foot down in a high power combustion engine vehicle, you're like, damn, the fuel efficiency is going down. Plus, you're putting better fuel in it, so like $160 a liter. And you're always like, oh, now after 1 hour, you're back to the petrol pump to fill full tank and
$12,000.
Yeah, it pinches your wallet. With an electric car, you can do all this all day long or until the batteries run out of juice. Then you go plug it in, and it doesn't cost you more. Plus, you're not on the lookout for, this pump has 95, this pump has 97, where will I get the better fuel? There's nothing. You just go anywhere, whether it's Tata Power or Xeon Charge or your home charger. It's the same quality of electricity.
Correct.
So it is performance without the penalties that have been associated with deploying all the performance in the past.
Yes, that's a new perspective. But
so it is Sasta sense. Earlier it used to be full sense, now it is Sasta sense. It doesn't cost you anything to full send a car.
So here, impractical buying advice, the BMW i5 is actually great value for money, not just in terms of buying it, but also in terms of running it.
Yeah, in terms of sending it, full sending it. So that's on the i5.
Yes.
And while we were talking about the i5, right, and the C63, another performance car, performance SUV that was launched was the G63. Yeah. Now, when you first saw it, you're like, acha, facelift, should we even do a video on it? Then you realize, this is the new generation G.
And it looks the same. Obviously, it looks the same.
It looks the same. You look at it and it's like, no, facelift mein bhi kuch nahi kiya hai. right? But it is an all new generation which finally gets a touchscreen. In the past, just imagine the most iconic, the most expensive Mercedes-Benz did not have a touchscreen.
It was the symbol of luxury.
It was a symbol of opulence, decadence, and it didn't have a touchscreen. You used to twirl that command knob. Now it's got a touchscreen. Okay, but you wouldn't care about that because the engine, it now gets a bit of hybridization, electrification, mild hybrid, no plug-in hybrid. That obviously boosts power, boosts torque. One downside to that, now when you start the G63, it doesn't go chuck, 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 brrr. Now it goes boom. There's got that instant catch.
It's that silent starter motor.
Because of that integrated starter generator. So that startup drama has gone. But then
every other drama is still there.
When you floor it, goes and then it roars and thunders and it's all hell and brimstone. So all that is there. But the headline feature on the G63 is not that the price has gone up, because that's always there, but that active body control, the active suspension. We'll put some clips of me going around the corner. Now here I'm going hell for leather. Like the tires are squealing and it's like, oh, and then you step on it a little bit more and then it drifts in, goes into understeer and it's on the absolute edge. But you look at the footage and there is just very little body roll. Whereas in the past, forget the body roll, the inside front wheel would lift. It would be like, no, you are going to topple.
You'd be terrified inside the cabin.
You'd be terrified. You're right. You'd be like scared shitless. But here, it controls the body roll so well. That's one benefit. And the second is the ride comfort. The earlier G63, because of the big wheels, it was hardcore.
And also still body on frame.
Yeah, body on frame. It was hardcore. You'd like feel everything. And that's why we always said that G63 is not sensible by the G400. The diesel, obviously, great diesel engine and smaller wheels, so the ride comfort was much better. But here, the ride comfort is also really good. We didn't do much off-roading because we didn't have the time. We ran out of light.
Who wants to off-road a G63 with those wheels?
I believe, and people have spoken to, not here, but abroad who've driven this, they say that on an off-road track, this is like a rally car to drive.
What are you saying?
Yeah. And they told me after we did this, other than the night also, I would have gone and driven. So, but apparently even off-road, this is brilliant. Yeah. It lacks in space. Such a big vehicle, you don't have that much space. You still, no matter how tall you are, still have to climb into the G63. There are its quirks. I wouldn't say drawbacks anymore because now that is part of the character. The door handles is still those chunky door handles. But, for the first time now, those door handles are metal. Earlier, it used to be plastic. And the reason this is metal is because it now gets keyless go. It finally gets keyless go. And so for the transmitter to work, that has to be metal. So that's metal, but it retains the same iconic way of using it. Plus, when you shut the door, ka-tank!
And that shotgun lock sound.
The shotgun locks. So all that is there. When you launch it...
The engine. When you brake torque it, because that centrifugal force of the V8, it actually sits onto one side before you launch it. I was, the first time I did that, I was like, what the hell is happening? It just goes onto one side and then it rockets off into the horizon. It's insane.
And then you get that squat. But you don't get as much squat as in the past. So that's again the
active suspension
working. But you still get that squat.
I'm sure they've intentionally done that. They can probably control it 100%. But they don't want to.
So you get that squat and then pricing is ridiculous.
Doesn't matter. It's all sold out.
The demand for it is ridiculous. I think now if you book it, you are actually in next year's Q3 allocation. So you got to really wait for your G. And it'll hold value really well.
I don't think cars like this even depreciate because everybody wants one. Whoever can afford one wants one.
Yesterday or day before, a friend of mine was Behram, our technical editor. He was asking me that somebody has approached him. He's got a diesel G350.
The older one.
The older one, which was launched in 2020, 2021. I believe that was launched at around 1.4.
It was before that. I think it was 2019.
Or maybe 2019. It was launched a little bit above 1 crore.
Yeah, it was 1.56.
When it was launched around 1.4 or something. Whatever, chalo, let's say 1.5. Now you know how much it's getting? 2.5.
What are you saying?
Yeah. So that's how much the value has gone up. Maybe it must be a chaka-chak piece and obviously he's asking for a little bit more, then he'll probably settle at 2.3 or something like that.
But whatever.
But, after using a car for 3 years, it's appreciated. Which car does that? And the question is, the C63, will it appreciate? Will it have the same value? Today, the old V8 C63s, especially the naturally aspirated ones, their demand has really gone up because that was the last of the NA, the last of that fantastic, mind-blowing sound and everything. Will the four-cylinder appreciate?
I don't know. Maybe it's good for us. We'll be able to buy one in a couple of years and just enjoy.
But would you want to buy one?
I mean, if everything is out of reach and I can get a 600 horsepower C63,
maybe,
because all the cars we want will probably appreciate to a point that we can't buy them anymore.
Yeah, probably. Maybe. So, on that note,
yes,
those were the. Oh wait, we have to talk about something that we haven't driven or ridden, but which is very important, and that's the Royal Enfield Flying Flea.
Yes,
that was launched at the EICMA, the Milan motorcycle show. Royal Enfield's first electric. That's what we need to talk about.
It is a motorcycle. Why do you think it's not a motorcycle?
It looks like a moped to me.
It's still a motorcycle. It doesn't have pedals.
Okay, well, now the new mopeds also don't have pedals. They have a kickstart.
Yeah, fair enough. But
so, it doesn't look like a... It's an electric two-wheeler. Okay? Let's put it at that. But that said, I think it's very cool.
It's insanely cool.
It's a whole hipster vibe to it.
Completely.
Yeah, you sit on it means you need to wear like a nice jacket, nice t-shirt, fancy the helmet, not your regular helmets, fancy open face helmet and all that. It's a very cool hipster vibe. They've gone completely radical compared to what anybody would have thought Royal Enfield's first electric motorcycle would be.
Yeah, because their image today is, I mean, to paraphrase, Desh ka loha. They are loha at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And this is fully technical, like really high-end parts.
An aluminum frame, magnesium covers for the electric powertrain.
The materials, the design, the finish.
That front fork.
Yeah, it's phenomenally... It's a very radical change from what we associate with Royal Enfield. Yeah. But I also think it's important that they did this because would you buy a Royal Enfield that weighs 300 kilos and has limited range and it may have great torque, but it's just a paraphrase of the current Royal Enfield to an electric. This reinvents Royal Enfield for the future. Very different approach. I think it's
and plus, this is going to be a separate sub-brand. So, under the Flying Flea banner, they would have a whole range of electric motorcycles. And Siddharth Lal also said that India is not going to be the lead market for it, which is obvious because here we are very cost conscious. So, you would get like, hipster vibes, hipster types in cities wanting to buy it. But it's going to be an indulgence. It's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be priced competitively against other electric vehicles. Yeah. Especially now that Honda is going to finally do the electric Activa. Yeah.
Imagine.
So this can't compete against all of that.
Yes.
This has to compete on the cool factor. And that's where I doff my hat to the Royal Enfield guys. Yeah. They know their challenges. They know who they are. Yeah. And they've reinvented an electric two-wheeler under the Royal Enfield banner.
They're not afraid to go where they haven't been before also, And I think that's hugely commendable because imagine the anxiety sitting behind closed doors, not wondering what people will say about this. It's a completely new direction. Royal Enfield fans are also very protective of what Royal Enfield stands for. And these guys are taking it in a completely new direction and hats off to them.
Yeah. So on social media, there's an equal amount of hate and love for it.
And there will
which is great.
Yeah.
Because anything that evokes this kind of passion will do well.
Yes.
You don't have to sell to everybody.
Yeah.
But if half those people like it, and out of those half the people, 10% buy it, it's sorted. Yeah. And plus, this can take Royal Enfield global because this will look cool in Milan or Madras.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's sorted to ride. Okay, I don't know how different it's going to be from every electric vehicle. But this is more of a fashion statement. More of an ownership statement rather than how hard you can corner and all of that. I believe it also has cornering ABS and all of that or something like that. So it's got some 23 patents on it. So the tech is also there. It's not only style. There is also substance that they haven't missed out on.
Yeah.
So let's see how it rides.
Yeah. And I mean, this is not the final production form yet, right?
Isn't it? I think this is.
Okay.
Again, now what are they going to change from this? Maybe magnesium would go to something steel or something. So, but I don't think why this would change. I think this is, as you see it, this is what you will get.
Yeah. Very cool. Super, super cool.
Yeah. So hats off Royal Enfield and all the best with the Flying Flea. And also, so many interesting cars and bikes to talk about.
Yeah. Post Diwali, who'd have thought? I thought post Diwali is going to be a lull, but it's just been launch after launch, news piece after news piece. It's been exciting.
Yep. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. If you have any questions, any comments, drop it in the comments below. And we will see you next week on another episode of the cars and bikes that we've been driving and riding all week. Thank you guys for watching and listening.
See you next time.